Atlanta's gossip mill has been restless again, and this time the whispers are heavier than usual. It started with one anonymous tip dropped into a celebrity blog. Inbox 5 short words that would flip the Frost family narrative inside out. Rasheeda invested in Jasmine. At first, nobody believed it. Why would Rasheeda, the woman who fought through tears and betrayal because of Kirk's affair with Jasmine, ever link her name or money to that woman again? But the proof didn't take long to surface. Screenshots, voice notes, business filings, every breadcrumb pointed to one stunning truth. Rasheeda had quietly become an investor in Jasmine's luxury skincare line, Aurora Glow. The internet went wild. Is Rasheeda playing long game revenge? One fan tweeted. Or is this business over boundaries? Others wondered if Kirk knew, or if this was Rasheeda's silent rebellion after years of standing by him. The story hit harder when fans noticed Jasmine's recent Instagram caption. Thankful for women who believe in second chances. Then, just when the rumors started to settle into disbelief, something happened that no one expected. Kirk Frost went live on Instagram. It was supposed to be a casual Q&A, just him talking about Frost Bistro, fatherhood, and music royalties, but halfway through, someone dropped a question in the comments that froze the entire chat. How do you feel about Rasheeda investing in Jasmine's brand? Kirk laughed at first, assuming it was fan trolling, but then his face changed. His smile faded, his tone shifted. What do you mean by that? He said, eyes narrowing at the screen. Investing? Who told y'all that? Fans said the silence that followed felt like forever. He checked his phone again, scrolled, and his expression went from confusion to disbelief. One of the viewers had sent a link and official business document showing Rasheeda's boutique listed as a silent partner under Jasmine's company name. Live on camera. Kirk's entire composure cracked. Nah, he muttered. This can't be real. Rasheeda. He shook his head, laughed nervously, then looked off screen as if someone was trying to explain something behind the camera. Ain't no way she did this behind my back. The comments exploded. He found out live. Rasheeda playing chess, not checkers. This marriage finna hit the fan. Within minutes, blogs were reposting the clip. Viewers caught every second of his reaction, every blink, every muscle in his jaw tightening as the realization sank in. Back at the boutique, sources say Rasheeda's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. She hadn't planned for Kirk to find out that way. It was supposed to be private, strictly business. No emotion, no history. But the internet doesn't understand strictly business. It only sees betrayal, irony, and fire. By the time Jasmine went live later that night, smiling with her hair slicked back and wearing a gold chain fans recognized from an old love and hip-hop scene, the internet had already decided. The Frost empire was shaking again, and this time, it wasn't because of another affair, it was because Rasheeda had flipped the power dynamic in a way no one saw coming. And if you think Kirk was just going to let that slide quietly, you might want to hold on to your seat, because what happened next turned Atlanta upside down. Under the dim glow of Atlanta's night skyline, the Frost household sat in a silence so heavy it felt alive. The glow from Kirk's phone screen flickered against his face as he replayed the live comments over and over again. Scrolling through a storm he couldn't control. Rasheeda invested in Jasmine's brand. The words were still echoing in his head, each repetition hitting deeper than the last. In the background, the soft hum of the refrigerator filled the quiet, but even that sound seemed nervous tonight. Rasheeda walked in from the back office, still dressed in her boutique clothes, gold hoops, fitted blazer. That calm but commanding look she wore when she was about business. She stopped mid-step when she saw Kirk sitting at the counter, phone in one hand, glass of something strong in the other. His eyes were locked on her, unreadable but sharp enough to cut through the air between them. You mind explaining this? Kirk said finally, his voice low but loaded. He turned the phone around so she could see the document, her name listed as an investor under Aurora Glow, Jasmine Washington's company. Rasheeda blinked once, trying to decide which truth to start with. Kirk, I was going to tell you when, he snapped, standing up so suddenly, the stool scraped across the floor. After the blogs did, after I found out live in front of thousands of people. She didn't answer right away. The air between them shifted, carrying all the history that had never really healed. Jasmine's name wasn't just a name, it was a ghost that never left their marriage. It was a business move, she said softly. Nothing personal, nothing emotional. She came with an offer, and it made sense for the boutique. I didn't want to involve you until it was finalized. Kirk laughed under his breath, shaking his head. You didn't want to involve me. Rasheeda, that's Jasmine. You know what that name means in this house? You think I can separate business from what that woman did to us? She stepped closer, voice steady. You're assuming she did something alone. You were there too, Kirk. Don't rewrite the past to make me the one who can't move on. That hit him straight in the chest. He set the glass down too hard, the ice clinking like a warning. So this is what moving on looks like to you. Giving her your money, your platform, your name. Rasheeda sighed and leaned on the counter, her tone turning firm. You're missing the point. I'm building something bigger than grudges. Jasmine came with a brand that had real potential. She's got followers, she's trending, and people buy into her story. I invested because I saw profit, not forgiveness. He stared at her, trying to find the lie in her eyes. So you just conveniently forgot she's the woman who had my kid. The one you cried over for months. The one who humiliated you on national TV. She didn't flinch. I didn't forget, but I forgave. There's a difference. That silence came back, heavier now. Outside, the faint sound of cars moving through Midtown felt distant, disconnected. Kirk ran a hand over his face, pacing. You could have told me, Sheeda, he muttered. We've been through too much for this kind of secret. And you could have told me about a lot of things, she said quietly, the old pain flickering in her voice. But I didn't burn the whole house down when I found out. He stopped pacing and looked at her, something like guilt crossing his face before pride swallowed it up again. So what? This your revenge? No, she said. This is my independence. For a moment, neither spoke. The truth sat between them, ugly, raw, and unstoppable. Then the phone buzzed again. Kirk glanced down, and what he saw made his jaw tighten. Jasmine had posted a new story. It was a short clipper at a studio, smiling, saying, "When women support women, miracles happen." Behind her, on a whiteboard, were faintly visible initials, RF. You gotta be kidding me, Kirk muttered, showing it to Rasheeda. She's using you already. Look at this. She's dropping hints for clout. Rasheeda frowned, stepped closer to see the clip. I didn't approve that. Of course you didn't. Because she's playing you, Kirk said, his tone rising. That's what she does. She plays people. And you just handed her the biggest storyline of her career. She turned away, refusing to give him the argument he wanted. I can handle Jasmine. She's not the same person she was. Kirk laughed bitterly. You're right. She's worse. She learned from the best. That line hung in the air, sharp as a slap. Rasheeda froze for a second, eyes narrowing. What's that supposed to mean? It means she learned how to get what she wants just like you did, Kirk said, walking past her toward the living room. The only difference is she don't pretend it's all business. Rasheeda followed, anger rising now. You know what's funny? Every time I try to grow, you make it about betrayal. Every time I choose myself, you call it revenge. I can't win with you, Kirk, because you keep choosing everything but us. He shot back. You're supposed to be my partner, not my rival. And you're supposed to be my husband, not my monitor, she fired back. Their voices overlapped, tension spilling through the house like a storm. The kind of argument that carried years of unspoken things, half-healed wounds, and memories that refused to die. Then, suddenly, Kirk's phone buzzed again, this time. A notification from the shade room. He opened it, and his face drained. Rasheeda, he said slowly. They just posted about it. It's viral. She turned toward him, her face tightening. What do you mean viral? He read the headline out loud. His voice flat. Rasheeda Frost becomes secret investor in Jasmine Washington's skincare empire, sources say. Kirk found out on Live. Beneath it, thousands of comments flooded in. Sheeda playing long game. He read, Kirk better watch his throne. Oh, and here's one. Jasmine and Rasheeda working together. Hell just froze over. She closed her eyes for a moment, pressing her fingers to her temple. This wasn't supposed to go public yet. I had an NDA. Kirk interrupted. You signed paperwork. With Jasmine? Yes, she said. And it's legit. It protects both of us. He stared at her like he didn't recognize her anymore. You sound crazy right now. You signed legal documents with the woman who almost destroyed our marriage. Rasheeda exhaled slowly. I did what was smart for my brand. This is business. Kirk, you keep making it personal because you can't let the past rest. He threw his hands up. The past is sitting in your partnership contract. How am I supposed to ignore that? She didn't answer, and for a long moment, all you could hear was the low hum of the TV in the background, playing an old rerun of Love and Hip Hop, one of their old scenes. Back when things were simpler, when love still looked like loyalty instead of survival. Finally, Rasheeda spoke again, her tone quieter, almost tired. Look, you can be mad tonight. I get it, but I'm not apologizing for trying to grow. You either trust me, or you don't. He looked at her for a long time, searching for something familiar. Then he said, barely above a whisper, maybe I don't know who you are anymore. She turned toward the window, eyes glistening but steady. Then maybe it's time you learn. Outside, thunder rolled across the city. The storm that had been threatening all night finally broke, rain tapping against the glass, in slow, deliberate rhythm. Kirk set his phone down and stared into the darkness beyond the window, his reflection fractured by the raindrops. Behind him, Rasheeda walked away, her heels clicking softly against the floor, leaving him alone with a headline that would redefine everything they'd built. And somewhere across town, Jasmine Washington smiled as her phone lit up with new followers, new comments, and one message from an anonymous number that simply read, "He knows." The rain had turned into a steady drum by the time morning crept into the frost house. Kirk barely slept. The sound of notifications had filled the night like an endless echo, fans tagging him in posts, bloggers dissecting every frame of his live reaction, podcasts already calling it the frost fallout. When he finally dragged himself out of bed, the house felt colder than usual, quieter, to clean. Rasheeda was already gone. Her side of the bed was neatly made. A note folded on the nightstand. "Went to the boutique early. Don't make this mess louder than it already is." He read it 3 times, then crumpled it in his fist. By the time he got downstairs, the housekeeper was quietly wiping the counters, pretending not to notice the tension. Kirk poured himself coffee, opened his phone, and the first thing he saw was a clip from Jasmine's Instagram Live. She was radiant, glowing in a pink blazer, sitting in a minimalist office that screamed new money. To everyone asking about Aurora Glow, Jasmine was saying, her voice calm, measured, almost smug, "I just want to say this: women can work together, even if the world wants to pit them against each other. I'm grateful for everyone who believes in second chances. Big things coming soon." And then she winked. Just once, but it was enough to set social media on fire. Kirk nearly dropped his phone. "She really out here playing victim," he muttered, shaking his head. He scrolled through the comments, hundreds of them, some supportive, most messy. Rasheeda, the bigger person, Fr. Jasmine securing that frost investment bag. Kirk somewhere punching air RN. He grabbed his keys, stormed out the door, and by the time he reached Frost Boutique, the parking lot was full paparazzi vans, fans with phones, and a few curious reporters hoping for a quote. The moment he stepped out of the car, flashes went off. "Kirk, is it true Rasheeda's funding Jasmine's brand? Kirk, how does it feel finding out on live? Kirk, is the marriage in trouble again?" He ignored them all, pushing through the doors of the boutique. The bell chimed softly, and inside, Rasheeda stood near the counter, checking fabric samples with her assistant. She didn't look surprised to see him. "You didn't answer my calls," he said, voice low but tight. "I was busy," she replied without looking up. "You know, running businesses you don't believe in." "Oh, so now we doing shade?" he shot back. "You already humiliated me in front of the internet. Now you want to play boss lady in front of your staff." The assistant awkwardly looked away. Rasheeda gestured for her to step out, then turned back to Kirk. "You humiliated yourself going live last night. I didn't tell you to read comments. You did that because I didn't think my wife was hiding contracts with the woman who damn near destroyed our family," he said, stepping closer. "You can dress it up as business, but that move was personal." She folded her arms. "Everything's personal to you, Kirk. That's the problem. You treat the past like a leash you can still hold over my neck." "Nah," he said, shaking his head. "The problem is you don't care how things look. You didn't just invest, you made a statement. You told the world you and Jasmine on the same side now." Rasheeda sighed, rubbing her temples. "You're twisting it again. I didn't do this for her. I did it because I know what it feels like to be written off. I know what it takes to rebuild after being dragged through the mud. You think I don't remember what people said about me when all that happened? They called me weak for staying. They called me stupid for forgiving you. But look where I am now. I turned that pain into power. If Jasmine's trying to do the same, I'm not gonna stop her." Kirk leaned back against the counter, staring at her. "You sound like you actually believe her." "I believe in redemption," she said simply, "not people principles." He laughed once, bitterly. "Redemption? That's cute. Let's see how redeemed she is when she starts posting throwbacks again for promo." "You're paranoid," she said. "Nah, I'm experienced," he replied. Just then Rasheeda's phone buzzed. She checked it and froze. The color drained from her face. "What?" Kirk asked, already knowing he wasn't gonna like the answer. She turned the screen toward him. Jasmine had just posted a behind-the-scenes video from a It featured a shelf of Aurora Glow products and, right in the middle, a framed photo of Jasmine and Rasheeda together at a recent industry event. The caption read, "Behind every glow, there's a story. #AuraGlow #women who heal." Kirk's voice broke into a disbelieving laugh. "Oh, she bold. She using you for PR now. You see that? Rasheeda closed her eyes for a second. This wasn't part of the agreement. And yet there it is, Kirk said, tapping the screen. Front and center, Jasmine Washington, rebranding her entire scandal as empowerment. Congratulations, you just financed your own humiliation. That one hit her hard, but she didn't let him see it. I'll handle it, she said finally. No, you won't, Kirk said, because she's already running with it. It's out of control now, and if you don't shut it down, I will. You'll what, Kirk? Post another live? Yell at the internet, she snapped. This isn't the 2010s anymore. Drama doesn't solve things, it multiplies them. He stepped closer, and silence looks like guilt. Their eyes locked, neither blinking, neither backing down. Somewhere behind them, a customer walked in, hesitated, and slowly backed out again. After a long moment, Rasheeda finally said, "If you go to her, don't do it angry. You'll make it worse. Don't tell me how to handle Jasmine," he said, grabbing his keys again. "You already did enough of that behind my back." Kirk, wait, but he was already gone. The sound of the door closing echoed through the boutique, leaving Rasheeda alone with the faint smell of perfume samples and the quiet thump of her heartbeat. She leaned against the counter, staring at her phone screen, watching Jasmine's post rack up thousands of likes by the minute. An hour later, Jasmine was sitting in her office at Aurora Glow headquarters, laughing with her assistant as she scrolled through the engagement numbers. Look at this, 5 million views in 6 hours. The Frost name still prints gold. Her assistant grinned. You think Rasheeda's mad? She'd get over it, Jasmine said, flipping her hair. She knew what she signed up for. Besides, controversy sells. She wanted business, well, now she's got publicity too. The door opened without a knock. Kirk stepped in. The room went still. Jasmine's smile faltered for the first time all morning. Kirk, she said carefully. This is unexpected. Yeah, he said, his voice calm but cold. So was that post. Her assistant quickly slipped out, closing the door behind her. Jasmine stood up, straightened her blazer. Look, before you start, save it. Kirk cut her off. You know exactly what you did. You baited her into that deal so you could ride her name. That's not true, Jasmine said, her tone measured but defensive. I offered her a legit opportunity. She accepted. Everything that came after is just noise. I can't control what people say. He stepped closer, eyes locked on hers. You knew what would happen. You always know. You post a little smile, drop a little caption, and boom, here come the blogs. You feed off chaos, Jasmine. She smirked slightly. Funny, coming from you. You've been living off chaos since 2012. He clenched his jaw. This ain't a game. To you, maybe, she said, folding her arms. To me, it's survival. I had to rebuild my name after you turned me into the villain. I lost everything, friends, reputation, deals, and now that I'm finally winning again, suddenly it's a problem. Nah, Kirk said. The problem is you still using me to do it. I'm using my story, she said firmly. You and Rasheeda were part of that story. I can't erase it just to make you comfortable. He took a breath, trying to stay calm. You could have kept it clean. No photos, no shade captions. Just business. Business doesn't trend, she replied simply. For a moment, neither spoke. The tension was thick enough to choke on. Then Jasmine's expression softened slightly. Look, Kirk, I didn't mean to hurt her. I respect Rasheeda. She believed in something that everyone else refused to touch. She saw potential. If you can't see that, that's not on me. He studied her for a long time, then said quietly, You good at making bad things sound noble. She tilted her head. And you good at blaming women for choices you helped create. He didn't respond. The rain outside had stopped, but the clouds still hung low, heavy, waiting. Finally, he said, Just know this, if you drag her name for clout again, I'll make sure that brand of yours burns out before it even shines. And with that, he turned and walked out, leaving Jasmine staring after him. Her jaw tight but her eyes glinting with something unreadable, part fear, part challenge. As the door shut, she whispered to herself, Too late, Kirk. It's already shining. Back at the boutique, Rasheeda's phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number. He came to see me. You might want to check the blogs. Her heart dropped. She opened Instagram, and there it was. Someone had recorded Kirk walking into Jasmine's office. The caption read, Trouble in Paradise again. Kirk confronts Jasmine after viral scandal. The clip had already hit 1 million views. Rasheeda stared at the screen, her reflection flickering over the chaos. She whispered under her breath, Lord, not again. And just like that, the story had evolved from secret investment to full-blown public war, with every side claiming innocence and every move feeding the fire. The city was watching. The fans were divided, and Atlanta hadn't even seen the worst of it yet. By late afternoon, the city's gossip pages were boiling. Every blog, every Twitter space, every reality podcast was dissecting the Frost scandal like it was Sunday night TV. The headlines kept getting bolder. Kirk storms Jasmine's office. Rasheeda blindsided again. Aurora glow drama outshines the brand. Nobody wanted to talk about business anymore. This was betrayal in high definition, and the audience was glued to it. Inside Frost Bistro, Rasheeda sat in a corner booth, sunglasses on, phone in hand, scrolling through the noise. The restaurant was supposed to be her peace zone, but not today. Two girls at the next table were whispering loud enough to be heard. "You think she gonna leave him this time? Girl, please." She said that 10 years ago. Rasheeda pretended not to hear, but her grip on the phone tightened. She opened her messages and saw Kirk's name sitting there, unread. Dozens of missed calls from reporters. One voicemail from her mother that said simply, "Baby, don't let pride ruin peace." The door opened, and Yandy Smith walked in, sunglasses, white coat, that quiet confidence she carried like armor. She slid into the booth without asking. "I figured you'd be here," Yandy said, lowering her shades. "Half the internet's trying to find you." Rasheeda gave a half smile. "Well, congratulations to them. I'm not hiding." "You don't have to," Yandy said gently, "but you do need to get ahead of this. Jasmine's painting it like some redemption arc. If you don't say something soon, people gonna rewrite your story again." Rasheeda sighed. "And what am I supposed to say, Yandy? That I believed in a business deal that turned into a circus overnight? That I'm the fool again?" "No," Yandy said. "You say you're the visionary. You say you built your empire off forgiveness and forward thinking. Spin it. Own it. Don't let Jasmine define it." Rasheeda looked out the window, her reflection floating over the rain-streaked glass. "I thought she changed." One really did. People change," Yandy said quietly, "but not their habits." Just then, a waiter approached with a phone in hand. Ms. Frost. Someone's on the line for you. Said it's urgent." Rasheeda took the phone. Jasmine Washington. For a second, everything went still. Yandy raised an eyebrow. Rasheeda hesitated, then took the call. "Jasmine," she said slowly. "Rasheeda, listen before you hang up." Jasmine's voice came through quick, nervous. "I didn't know the video was gonna go viral like that. My media team posted it without clearing it with me." "Don't lie," Rasheeda said. "I've been in this game too long to fall for that. You know exactly what gets attention." "I swear," Jasmine insisted. "I didn't mean to cause all this. Kirk came to the office, and now they're spinning it like we back in some triangle again. I'm getting dragged. Rasheeda laughed bitterly. "Girl, you trending. Your sales probably doubled by now." "It's not like that," Jasmine said, voice softening. "I was trying to do something positive for once. I thought if we worked together, it would show growth. I thought people would finally stop calling me the villain." Rasheeda was silent for a moment, then said, "Growth doesn't come from using other people's pain. And forgiveness doesn't come from pretending the past never happened." Jasmine shot back. "You said we could start fresh. I believed you." Yandy was watching closely, whispering, "Put her on speaker." Rasheeda ignored her and spoke quietly into the phone. "You crossed a line, Jasmine. I gave you a chance, and you turned it into content." "It's not content, it's my story too," Jasmine said. "You of all people should understand that." The call went silent for a few seconds. Finally, Rasheeda said, "Then tell your story without borrowing mine," and hung up. She slid the phone across the table, exhaling hard. "I'm done." "No, you're not," Yandy said, leaning forward. "You're too calm. That means you're planning something." Rasheeda gave a faint smile. "Maybe." Meanwhile, across town, Kirk was sitting in his car outside the Aurora Glow building, watching paparazzi swarm the entrance. Jasmine stepped out in a beige coat, flanked by her assistant, smiling for cameras like nothing was wrong. Every flash was another reminder that she was winning the narrative. He started the engine, ready to drive off, when his phone buzzed again, this time. A text from Scrappy. "Bro, you trending again. The meme's crazy. Come to the studio. We need to talk." The studio was dim, music playing low, the air thick with tension and weed smoke. Scrappy was sitting with young Jock and Kendra, scrolling through clips on a big screen. They all looked up when Kirk walked in. "Damn bro," Jock said, shaking his head. "You really can't catch a break." "Huh, don't start," Kirk muttered. "Nah, we not clownin'," Scrappy said. "We just trying to figure out why you walked into that girl's office knowing cameras was outside." That move screamed guilty. "I wasn't thinking about cameras," Kirk said. "I was thinking about respect. She using my wife's name for clout." "Yeah, but now the streets think you still got feelings for Jasmine," Jock said, grinning. And Jasmine ain't helping, she just posted closure comes full circle with a heart emoji. What? Kirk grabbed the remote and scrolled through Instagram. There it was, Jasmine's new post. A selfie with a quote in cursive font. Some stories deserve an ending. The comments were pure chaos. So they back talking. Kirk can't resist his past. Rasheeda about to flip. This girl playing with fire. Kirk muttered. So what's the move? Scrappy asked. Kirk leaned back, thinking, I'm gonna fix it. Not with words. With receipts. Receipts. Jock repeated. Kirk nodded slowly. Yeah, I got proof. Jasmine knew what she was doing. Emails, contracts, everything. She wanted exposure, not partnership. And if the world wanna see it, I'll show 'em. Scrappy whistled. You really about to drop tea on camera? Nah, Kirk said, his tone firm. Not tea, truth. Back at Frost Bistro, Yandy had just left when Rasheeda's manager walked in, looking stressed. We got a problem, he said, dropping his tablet on the table. Kirk's setting up an interview with the Shade Room. Says he's gonna tell his side. Rasheeda froze. No, he wouldn't. He already confirmed, the manager said. They're filming tonight. She closed her eyes, her pulse quickening. This wasn't just gossip anymore. This was about control. About who would own the narrative first. By the time night fell again, the internet was buzzing with anticipation. Fans posted countdowns. Gossip sites pre-wrote their headlines. At exactly 9 o'clock, Kirk went live from a hotel conference room, dressed in all black. Serious expression. No music, no jokes. I don't usually do this, he began. But since everybody wanna talk about what's going on, I'll clear it up once and for all. The comments exploded, tens of thousands watching. He pulled out a folder. These right here, he said, are emails between Jasmine's team and my wife's manager. Jasmine pitched this whole thing as a redemption story. She knew what she was doing from day one. She played the sympathy card, and she dragged my wife into something she didn't deserve. He flipped the papers, reading snippets out loud, dates, subject lines, details that sounded too real to ignore. And then he dropped the bomb. And since you wanna post pictures, let me post this one. He held up a photo, blurry but recognizably loved Jasmine at a dinner with a man who looked suspiciously like a producer from Love and Hip Hop. She was planning to leak this drama for next season. That's what this was about. Storyline, not skincare. The comments went insane. But what Kirk didn't know, what nobody knew, was that Jasmine was already watching, live, from her penthouse suite. She wasn't crying. She was recording. Her assistant asked, You gonna let him do that? Jasmine smiled faintly. No, I'm gonna answer him the same way he found out Liv. And as the clock struck midnight, Atlanta was about to witness something no one had ever seen before. A digital war between the woman who invested, the man who exploded, and the ex who knew how to turn scandal into strategy. The next chapter was just beginning, and every second of it was about to go viral. The clock hit midnight and Atlanta's skyline shimmered like it was waiting for chaos. Jasmine sat in her penthouse suite, silk robe, bare feet on marble, hair pulled back tight. Her assistant was pacing the room, nervous. The glow of the ring light painted Jasmine's face with that sharp, perfect glow, the kind that looked honest even when it wasn't. The Shade Room Live still had Kirk trending at #1, but Jasmine was already setting up her response. Are you sure you want to go live right now? Her assistant asked. He just aired all your business. Jasmine smirked, touching up her lip gloss. Exactly why it's the perfect time. I'm not gonna let him control my story. He embarrassed me once years ago. Never again. The assistant nodded slowly. You think Rasheeda's watching? Oh, she watching, Jasmine said, probably with popcorn. She hit the button. Within seconds, her followers flooded in thousands, then tens of thousands. Comments flew across the screen. Here we go. Sis, clap back. Where Rasheeda at? Jasmine leaned closer to the camera, her tone calm, her expression soft. So, I wasn't gonna say anything, but since my name's being dragged again, let's talk. Her voice was slow, deliberate, dripping with that kind of confidence only a woman who's survived public humiliation can carry. I'm not here to argue or throw shade. I'm here to tell the truth. Yes, Rasheeda invested in my brand. Yes, Kirk found out online. But what y'all don't know is that I didn't go to them. She came to me. The comments exploded instantly. That's right, Jasmine continued. Rasheeda reached out because she saw potential, because she saw growth. And what happened between us in the past had nothing to do with this deal. We handled that years ago. Privately, as adults. But some people, she said, pausing with a knowing look, don't like when women move on from their mistakes. Her assistant mouthed, You're killing it. But Jasmine wasn't done. And as for Kirk, I don't owe you an apology. Not now, not ever. You made your choices. And so did I. You can show contracts and screenshots all you want, but what they really show is a man still obsessed with control. I've been quiet long enough. She reached for her phone again, tapped the screen. And suddenly, another video started playing, a voice memo. Muffled but clear enough. Kirk's voice. I just don't want this to make me look bad. The recording said, if Rasheeda wanna do business with you, fine. Just don't let people think I knew about it. Jasmine smiled softly into the camera. Sound familiar? The audience went wild. The comments lit up like a digital bonfire. She got receipts. Play IT again. Not Kirk lying live. So before anybody says I manipulated anything, Jasmine said, her tone sharp now. Remember, he was okay with it until it hit the blogs. She leaned back in her chair. So maybe I'm not the only one who loves attention. Within minutes, her live had hit 100,000 viewers. The clip of Kirk's voice was being reposted everywhere, turning his late-night confession into a new scandal of its own. At Frost Bistro, Rasheeda's manager burst into the room holding a tablet. You need to see this, he said. She took one look and froze. The voice, the tone, the undeniable proof that Kirk had lied on camera hours earlier. Her hands trembled slightly. Not from shock but from disappointment. She whispered to herself, he promised me he wouldn't make this mess worse. The next call came in before she could think Yandi again. Girl, she said through the phone. Kirk just became the main character of the internet again. You better say something before they drag your name to— No, Rasheeda said quietly. Not yet. What you mean not yet? Yandi demanded. She's out here dropping audio. I know, Rasheeda said, but I've learned something. Every storm has its silence before it flips. I'm waiting for mine. She hung up, turned her phone over, and sat back, her expression calm but unreadable. Meanwhile, Kirk was in his car again, watching Jasmine's live replay through gritted teeth. The sound of his own voice hit like a slap. He slammed the steering wheel and shouted. That was a private conversation. He called Rasheeda instantly. She didn't answer. He called again. Voicemail. Then a text came through from Rasheeda. Don't come home tonight. I need space. He threw his phone on the seat, breathing hard. She set me up, he muttered. They both did, but back in the penthouse, Jasmine wasn't celebrating yet. Her assistant looked nervous. You think this went too far? Maybe, Jasmine said, staring at her screen, watching the comments flood in. But it's too late now. They made me the villain long ago. Villains don't play fair. And just as she said that, her phone buzzed a known number. She hesitated, then answered. You really think you won? Kirk's voice was low, furious, almost shaking. I think I told my truth, Jasmine replied evenly. Nah, Kirk said. You just lit a fire you can't control. Then let it burn, she said, and hung up. The next morning, Atlanta woke up to chaos. Clips from both lives were stitched together everywhere on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter. News outlets ran segments titled The Frost Triangle Reignites. Who's telling the truth? Fans were divided. Some sided with Jasmine, calling her brave. Others called her manipulative. And in the middle of it all, Rasheeda stayed silent, posting nothing. That silence became louder than words. Later that afternoon, she walked into her boutique, her team whispering around her. She ignored them all, heading straight to the back office. She sat down, opened her laptop, and pulled up a document, her original contract with Jasmine. Attached was a confidentiality clause, one Jasmine had clearly violated by sharing that audio. Her lips curved into a small, almost satisfied smile. You wanna play business? She murmured. Let's play. Meanwhile, Kirk was still trying to repair his image. He texted her again. We need to talk, Sheeda. She didn't reply. Instead, she called her lawyer. By sunset, Jasmine got an email formal letterhead. Bold text at the top. Notice of breach of contract. Her assistant read it out loud, panicking. They're threatening legal action. Defamation, NDA violation, brand damages. Jasmine snatched the tablet. They wouldn't, but they would. And they did. Within hours, gossip sites had obtained leaked details of the legal notice. Headlines read, Rasheeda Frost moves to sue Jasmine Washington. The internet exploded again. Jasmine's comments filled with messages. Sheeda, not playing this time. Girl, lawyer up. Kirk better hide. And at the center of all this, Rasheeda sat in her office, scrolling through the chaos she had quietly unleashed. Her expression was calm now. Collected. Her assistant asked, You really gonna take her to court? Rasheeda looked up, her tone steady. No, I just need her to know what silence feels like when you're not in control of the story. Outside, fans were already camped near the boutique, waiting for a statement, cameras flashing, voices shouting questions. Everyone desperate for the next chapter. And, though she didn't say a word, her eyes told the story cold, clear, and final. She was done being the one who forgave. This time, Rasheeda was the one holding the cards. But somewhere, deep down, she knew this wasn't over. Jasmine wouldn't fold quietly. And Kirk, stuck between guilt, anger, and pride, wasn't ready to let either woman write the ending. The triangle was alive again, burning hotter than it had in years. And Atlanta. Atlanta was watching like it was Sunday night TV. Because everyone knew what came next: revenge, redemption, and one truth that no one was ready to admit. Sometimes forgiveness is just the first stage of war. The next morning broke slow, gray and heavy. The kind of Atlanta morning that made the whole city feel tense before it even woke up. Kirk sat at Frost Bistro before it opened. Slouched in a booth near the window, wearing the same hoodie he'd thrown on the night before. Empty coffee cups crowded the table, his phone face down beside them. The door opened quietly. It was Scrappy. No cameras, no entourage, just him, and that looked like he already knew things had gone bad. "Bro, you look rough," Scrappy said, sliding into the booth. "You eat." "Not hungry," Kirk muttered. Scrappy looked around, lowered his voice. "The street's talking crazy. Man, Jasmine out here doing podcasts now. Acting like she a motivational speaker. Healing, closure, feminine power. You seen it?" Kirk didn't answer, just rubbed his forehead. Scrappy kept going. "And Rasheeda, she just had her lawyer leak that cease and desist. The blog's saying you ain't on her side no more. You gotta say something, bro, or she gonna spin this whole thing without you." "Let her," Kirk said quietly. "I started this." "Nah," Scrappy said, shaking his head. "You ain't start it, you just forgot what you dealing with. Jasmine don't fight clean, bro. She'll fight public." Kirk looked up finally, eyes tired but sharp. "And Rasheeda, she fights silent. Which one you think scarier?" Before Scrappy could answer, the bell above the door chimed again. Rasheeda walked in, black shades, gold hoops, all business. She looked flawless and furious. Kirk straightened immediately, as if caught doing something wrong. "We need to talk," she said. Scrappy stood up. "Yeah, I'ma let y'all handle that." He gave Kirk a quick look and left. Rasheeda sat across from him, arms crossed. "You embarrassed me again, Kirk. You lied on camera. You picked a fight with Jasmine, and now I'm the headline in a war I didn't start." "I was trying to defend you," he said, "by making it worse." She shot back. "You don't defend me by digging graves in public." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "I didn't know she recorded me. I didn't know she'd." "That's the problem," Rasheeda interrupted. "You never know. You act first, think later, and I'm the one cleaning up the damage." He leaned forward. "So what? Now you suing her?" "Maybe," Rasheeda said flatly. "Or maybe I'm just reminding her that I'm not to be played with." "You really think this helps?" he asked. "It helps me sleep," she said. Their eyes locked. There was no warmth this time, just exhaustion and pride. Then Kirk said something he hadn't said in years. "Sheeda, I miss how it used to be." She paused, blinked once, then looked down at the table. "Used to be doesn't exist anymore, Kirk. Not after everything." "You mean Jasmine?" "I mean everything," she said. "The lies, the apologies, the cycles. I'm tired." He swallowed hard. "So what you saying?" She hesitated. "I'm saying maybe we both need to stop pretending this is still love and admit it's habit." He sat back, the words landing like a punch. "You don't mean that." She didn't answer. Outside, flashes went off. Paparazzi again, already waiting. The world didn't care how private their pain was. Every silence was another headline. Rasheeda stood. "I got a press statement at 2. I'm clearing my side. After that, you can say whatever you want." "Sheeda, no," she said firmly. "No more Sheeda. Not until you remember who you're talking to." And she walked out. For a long time, Kirk didn't move. The sound of the rain starting up again filled the silence, tapping softly against the window. He finally picked up his phone and opened Instagram. Jasmine was live again. "I never meant to come between anyone," she was saying, her tone sweet but rehearsed. "But I won't apologize for growing. I've been the villain long enough. Maybe it's time people see who really keeps these stories alive." Kirk closed the app, leaned back, and muttered to himself, "She thinks she untouchable." He got up, grabbed his jacket, and left. Across town, at the radio station, Rasheeda sat in front of a mic, headphones on, ready for her interview. The host smiled politely but leaned in with the kind of energy that promised no mercy. "So, Rasheeda," she began, "the internet's been wild this week. Your name, Kirk's name, Jasmine's name, it's all over every timeline. Tell us what's really going on." Rasheeda smiled calmly. "What's going on is business. People get emotional when they see women doing something unexpected. I made an investment, not a confession, and anyone who thinks otherwise is just giving free press to people who don't deserve it. So you're not suing Jasmine? The host asked. Rasheeda tilted her head slightly. I don't sue people. I educate them, sometimes through lawyers. The room laughed, but her tone stayed sharp. And as for Kirk, he's human. We've both made mistakes. But I refuse to let history become my headline again. By the end of the interview, her composure had turned into a statement. The internet started flipping. Fans began posting clips captioned "Rasheeda ate that" without even cursing. Meanwhile, Jasmine watched from her phone, jaw tight. Her assistant whispered, "She's winning the sympathy back." Then we remind them why they stopped trusting her in the first place. Jasmine said coldly. That night, a mysterious account posted screenshots private messages allegedly between Kirk and Jasmine from months ago. The messages hinted at unfinished business, late-night calls, and promises of closure. Whether real or edited, they spread fast. Blogs went wild again. Did Kirk and Jasmine reconnect before the deal? Was Rasheeda's forgiveness a front? The chaos reset overnight. By morning, Kirk's phone was blowing up. Calls from producers, brand reps, even friends from the show. And the message was clear: his silence was no longer protection. It looked like guilt. He sat on the edge of the bed, scrolling through the fake screenshots. She playing dirty, he whispered. Rasheeda walked into the room, holding her coffee, eyes sharp but calm. You think I don't know that? She's baiting you again. Then why you still protecting her? He snapped. Because reacting gives her the spotlight, she said, and I'm done feeding that monster. So we just let her lie. No, Rasheeda said, setting down her cup. We tell the truth. Once. Properly. The next evening, the Frost couple went live together for the first time in years. Fans flooded in instantly. Rasheeda started. Y'all been talking all week? We hear it. So let's make it clear. She glanced at Kirk. There's no affair, no hidden deal, no secret agenda. I invested in a brand because I saw potential. Kirk reacted because he saw betrayal. Both things can be true, but Jasmine's been milking the attention long enough. Kirk nodded. We ain't perfect, but what we ain't gonna be is puppets. People use your name when they can't build one. So if she wanna keep talking, she can do it to her followers, not off ours. The live hit record numbers. Fans filled the comments with praise and shock. Some believed them, some didn't, but everyone was watching. And somewhere, in that penthouse suite again, Jasmine slammed her phone down hard enough to crack the screen. Her assistant whispered, "What now?" Jasmine looked out at the city lights, her reflection cold in the window. Now, she said quietly, now we remind Atlanta what happens when you try to bury a woman like me. Outside, thunder rumbled low again, like the city itself was bracing for another storm. Because this wasn't the end, just the next act. And every word, every clip, every post was one spark closer to a fire no one could put out. The next act began 2 nights later, under a heavy Atlanta sky that looked bruised with rain. Downtown was buzzing again, but not because of traffic, because Jasmine had just dropped a teaser clip. 15 seconds long, no context, no caption, just her, sitting in a velvet chair, lights dim, saying the words, "It's time y'all heard what really happened." Within minutes, it was everywhere. Jasmine Washington tell-all interview drops Friday. The blogs were foaming. Fans said the Frost family was done. Kirk didn't even have to open his phone to know it had gone viral. Strangers were already whispering about it in the parking lot when he stepped outside Frost Bistro. He climbed into his car and drove aimlessly for a while, through streets he'd known for decades, but that suddenly felt foreign. Every light seemed too bright, every billboard too loud. He ended up outside the old studio where he used to record in his 20s. The place was closed, dust on the windows, but it grounded him. He sat there, hands gripping the wheel, remembering when his biggest problem was a missed beat, not a public breakdown. Meanwhile, at home, Rasheeda was pacing her living room. The lights were low, her phone on the table, the TV muted but still running gossip segments about her name. Every headline sounded the same: betrayal, love, revenge. She took a deep breath and dialed Yan. You seen her new teaser? Rasheeda asked, voice tight. Yeah, Yandy said. And you can bet she got receipts or something that looks like receipts. You ready for that? I'm past ready, Rasheeda replied. She want a stage. I'll give her one. What you mean? Rasheeda stared out the window. I'm going on the mix tomorrow night. Live. No filters. I'm done being quiet. The next evening, the set lights of the mix glowed soft gold. Rasheeda sat centerstage.com and polished, surrounded by hosts who looked like they couldn't wait to ask what everyone else was afraid to. So, Rasheeda, The main host said, "You've been silent through all of this. But Jasmine's dropping her tell-all tomorrow. Anything you want to say before she does?" Rasheeda smiled faintly. "Just that silence doesn't mean guilt. It means growth. And growth doesn't need validation from people who profit off pain." The audience in the studio hummed in approval. "And what about Kirk?" the host asked. "Is the marriage okay?" Rasheeda paused just long enough for suspense. "The marriage is real. The headlines aren't. We fight, we fall, we fix. What you see online ain't the full story." By the time the interview ended, she had flipped the entire tone. The narrative online started to shift. Fans began calling her Grace under fire. Her clips spread across Twitter with captions like "Queen Energy Only." But Jasmine was watching too, and her jaw tightened with every repost. In her suite, surrounded by a team of stylists and producers, she looked at the laptop showing Rasheeda's calm performance and said coldly, "They forgot I still got the footage." Her producer frowned. "What footage?" Jasmine leaned forward. "From the night Kirk came to my office. He said more than people heard. My security camera caught everything." She opened the file, pressed play. The grainy footage showed Kirk pacing, frustrated, his voice rising. "You're using her. Jasmine, you still obsessed with this family?" And then, right before he left, something else, something the world hadn't heard. He'd pointed at her and said, "You think she's innocent in all this? She came to you because she wanted me to react." Jasmine smiled slowly. "That's my finale." Friday arrived like a storm warning. The tell-all aired at 8 p.m. sharp. Jasmine, in a silk red dress, sitting opposite a soft-spoken interviewer, tears perfectly placed, voice trembling just enough. "I never meant to hurt anybody," she began, "but I can't keep being blamed for everything that goes wrong in their marriage." She dabbed at her eyes. "The truth is, they needed me to stay relevant. And that's what hurts the most." The clip of Kirk saying she wanted me to react played next. The interviewer looked shocked. Jasmine whispered, "He said it himself." Social media detonated. Hashtags exploded. Hashtag Jasmine exposed. Hashtag Frost Files. Hashtag Team RASHEEDA. Hashtag Team Truth. Back at home, Kirk watched in disbelief. "That's out of context," he shouted at the screen. She edited it. Rasheeda was sitting next to him, arms crossed. "Context or not, it sounds bad. You gave her ammo." He turned to her. "So you believe her now?" "I believe you gave her room to twist it," she said sharply. "You always do." He stood, pacing. "I can fix it." "Stop trying to fix things you keep breaking," she said. The silence that followed was colder than the rain outside. The next morning, the fallout was everywhere. Jasmine's video had hit 10 million views overnight. Sponsors were calling, networks were circling, and fans were declaring her redeemed. Rasheeda sat alone in her boutique office, scrolling through the chaos, her reflection faint in the laptop screen. For the first time, her composure cracked. She whispered, "Maybe she won." Then her phone buzzed a message from a private number. "You're not done yet. Check your email." She hesitated, opened her inbox, and there it was, a video attachment, titled Truth, MP4. She clicked play. The footage showed Jasmine after the interview ended, still micked up, laughing with the crew. "Girl, I knew that clip would break the internet. Kirk dumb for walking into my office with cameras running. I told you controversy sells." Rasheeda's eyes widened. She hit record on her own phone, filming the screen. Her lips parted into a small, triumphant smile. "Thank you, Karma," she whispered. Hours later, she posted the videos straight to her story. No caption, no context, just the truth playing out. Within minutes, the internet flipped again. Jasmine caught faking tears. Leaked footage ruins tell-all. Jasmine's team scrambled, but it was too late. The damage was irreversible. Her brand's page flooded with angry comments. Sponsors began to pull back. And for the first time in weeks, Rasheeda didn't need to say a word. She just posted one line on her story after the chaos settled. "Silence speaks loudest when the truth echoes." Kirk saw it from his car and let out a slow breath. "She did it," he murmured. Later that night, they met again at home. The house was quiet. She sat at the kitchen counter, sipping tea. He stood across from her, unsure where to start. "You got her good," he said finally. "I didn't get her," Rasheeda said softly. "The truth did." He nodded. "You think it's over?" She looked at him for a long moment. "No, stories like ours don't end. They evolve." Outside, the rain had stopped. The city lights shimmered through the wet streets. And the Frost house finally felt still, like it was breathing after weeks underwater. But somewhere across town, Jasmine sat alone in the dark. Her phone lighting up every few seconds with missed calls, angry messages, and one new email titled Season Pitch. Love and hip-hop redemption. She stared at the screen, smirked faintly, and whispered, "Oh, I'm not done yet." Because in Atlanta, scandals don't die, they multiply. And the Frost Triangle, bruised but unbroken, had just rewritten the rules of survival in reality fame. Weeks turned into months. And the storm that once ruled Atlanta began to settle into whispers. The gossip blogs had moved on to fresher scandals, the timelines filled with new faces and new heartbreaks. But for Rasheeda Frost, the quiet wasn't empty, it was finally her own. The first few mornings felt strange. No one calling for statements, no makeup chair, no producers waiting for tears. She didn't have to check her reflection against anyone's expectations. For the first time in years, she could just sit with her coffee and hear herself think. She spent hours in her boutique, reorganizing racks by hand, humming to old R&B tracks that played low in the background. Customers who came in looked at her with new eyes. Not as the woman who stayed through betrayal, but as someone who survived it and still smiled. They'd whisper things like, "You're so strong and we watched you grow." And she'd just nod softly, grateful but private. At night, she'd sometimes a few lines, sometimes pages. One entry read, "Healing isn't loud. It's the silence after the storm where you start to hear your heartbeat again." Another, "I don't miss him. I miss who I thought he was." Her kids visited more often now. Her youngest would sit on the couch scrolling through his phone, saying, "Mom, people really love you out there. They call you goals." She'd smile, pretending it didn't sting a little that people saw her pain as inspiration. But she also knew that's what made her real. Meanwhile, Kirk was living quieter too, but for different reasons. The studio was half empty most days, equipment unplugged, lights dimmed. The sound of his own beats felt foreign. He tried to make new music, but every chord sounded like regret. Sponsors had dropped out one by one. Friends stopped calling. Even some family kept their distance. One afternoon, he drove past Pressed Boutique without meaning to. Through the glass, he saw Rasheeda helping a customer, laughing softly, looking alive. For a moment, he almost parked, but then he realized there was nothing left to say that hadn't already been said too late. He drove on. At home that night, he pulled out old notebooks filled with scribbled lyrics and budgets. Tucked inside was a photo of him and Rasheeda from years ago, smiling, young, unstoppable. He sat there for a long time before whispering, "I really did mess up something good." He decided to make a video, not for fame, not for views, but for honesty. Sitting in front of the camera, no stylist, no lighting, just truth, he said, "I ain't doing this for sympathy. I just want to say I see it now. I see every mistake, every lie I thought I could outrun. I thought I was keeping my world together, but I was really tearing it apart." He posted it quietly to his own page. It didn't explode the internet. It didn't trend. It just sat there, gathering slow, steady views from people who still believed in accountability. The comments surprised him, some harsh, but some kind. "Growth looks good on you. It's never too late to change." In Florida, Jasmine saw the clip while scrolling late at night. She didn't repost it, but she watched it twice. She recognized that tone in his voice, the kind that comes when pride finally dies. For the first time, she didn't feel anger, just distance. She whispered, "Maybe this is how stories really end, not with fireworks, but with people finally getting quiet." Her life had changed too. She'd started volunteering at a community youth center, teaching young girls about branding and independence. "Don't ever let your story be written by somebody else," she told them. "And if it ever is, make sure you rewrite the ending." She didn't hide her past, but she didn't live in it either. When someone asked her about Kirk now, she just said, "We were chapters in each other's lessons. That's all." Back in Atlanta, Rasheeda started a small podcast, nothing flashy, no guests with drama, just her voice and a microphone. She called it Real Talk After the Storm. The first episode opened with her saying, "Everybody loves to see you break, but the real glow is when you rebuild without applause." The show grew faster than she expected. Women from around the country wrote in, sharing their stories of betrayal, healing, starting over. One episode hit different. She said softly, "To the woman watching this right now, who thinks forgiving yourself means forgetting what happened, no, baby. Forgiveness means you remember without bleeding." The clip went viral on its own. Not messy viral, healing viral. Teachers shared it, preachers quoted it, fans clipped it to montages of her smiling again. It wasn't the kind of fame she used to chase, but it felt right. A few months later, she got an invitation from MTV to do a special called The Rise of Rasheeda. She hesitated at first. Part of her didn't want to relive it, but part of her knew the story wasn't about pain anymore, it was about power. She agreed, On the day of filming, she walked through her old boutique, past shelves lined with new designs, employees she trained, and customers who cheered her on. The crew followed her as she said, "People thought I broke, but breaking just means you're ready to rebuild, right?" Meanwhile, Kirk watched the promo from his apartment. He didn't reach out this time. He just smiled a little and whispered, "She earned that." The premiere night arrived. Atlanta's skyline glowed brighter than usual. Watch parties popped up in lounges and bars across the city. Fans clinked glasses every time Rasheeda appeared on screen. Her story played out in slow motion, the rise, the fall, the rebuild. At the end, the narrator's voice said, "And through it all, she chose peace." Tears filled her eyes as the credits rolled. She wasn't crying from sadness this time. It was gratitude. Later that night, she got a text from an unknown number. It said, "Proud of you. Keep shining." She didn't need to ask who it was. She just replied, "Thank you." The next morning, Jasmine posted a picture from her beachside porch with the caption, "New season, no bitterness." The comment section filled with hearts. Fans wrote, "Growth looks good on you too." Atlanta had officially moved on, but beneath the calm, there was still a quiet thread connecting them all, not love, not hate, just history. One Sunday afternoon, by pure coincidence, they all ended up in the same restaurant. Rasheeda walked in first with friends, Kirk already sitting in a corner booth. Jasmine was at the counter picking up a takeout order. For a brief second, the air froze. 3 stories, 1 room, no cameras, no producers, just real life. Rasheeda met Jasmine's eyes first. They exchanged a small note acknowledgement, not alliance. Kirk looked up, his eyes flickering between them. No words were said. Jasmine took her bag and walked out. Rasheeda sat down with her friends. Kirk stayed seated, staring into his drink. But somehow, that quiet moment said everything the reunion never could. Later, as Rasheeda drove home, she smiled to herself. "That's closure," she whispered. The city carried on, as it always did, cars honking, music thumping, people living. But for the first time in years, there was no tension pulling at her chest. She could breathe without wondering what headline was coming next. The following week, she filmed another podcast episode. Her voice was calm but warm. "When people ask if I regret anything," she said, "I tell them no. I learned, I grew, and I finally met the woman I was supposed to be." Listeners flooded the comments with messages. "This healed me. You don't know how much I needed to hear this. Thank you for reminding us that peace is power." The network called her again, offering her a spin-off deal. She smiled but said she'd think about it. This time, she wanted to move on her own time, her own pace. She wasn't chasing moments anymore. She was building meaning. Somewhere, Kirk started mentoring younger artists, warning them not to repeat his mistakes. People said he'd changed. Maybe he had, but the truth was, his biggest punishment was remembering everything. And Jasmine. She began writing a book. The title was simple. Under contract. She told her editor, "It's not revenge, it's reflection." She wanted it to be raw, unfiltered, but honest. When it released months later, the dedication read, "To every woman who was told to be quiet, don't." The book hit shelves quietly but stayed there for months. Interviews followed, but Jasmine never said a bad word about Kirk or Rasheeda again. She said, "We all played our part. I'm just telling mine." One summer evening, Rasheeda got a copy in the mail with a note inside. It said, "No hard feelings. Thank you for teaching me strength even when I wasn't kind." It was signed, J. Rasheeda smiled. She placed the book on her shelf beside her own journals. Not as a reminder of pain, but as proof that people can grow in different directions without dragging each other down. Months passed, and Atlanta's skyline kept changing. New towers, new billboards, new dreams. One night, Rasheeda hosted a charity gala for women's empowerment. The event was elegant, soft jazz playing, candles flickering. Halfway through her speech, she said, "I used to think success was being loved by the world. Now I know it's being at peace with yourself." The room stood in applause. Cameras flashed, but this time the moment wasn't about scandal, it was about strength. Afterward, as the hall emptied, she stepped outside. The city air was warm, calm, and alive. She looked up at the sky and whispered a quiet thank you, not to anyone in particular, just to the universe for letting her start over. In the distance, Kirk passed by unnoticed in his car, windows down, music low. He saw her silhouette under the streetlight and smiled faintly before driving off into the night. In that same hour, Jasmine walked along the beach miles away, waves washing at her feet. Her phone buzzed with notifications about her book signing, but she didn't check. She just breathed, letting the tide erase her footprints. 3 lives once tangled by betrayal, now moved in separate rhythms, peaceful, imperfect, human. The story that started as scandal ended as survival. No headlines, no applause, no dramático outro. Just real people learning how to live again. And maybe that's how every storm is supposed to end, not with a bang, but with a breath. The rain had stopped before dawn, but Atlanta still felt damp, heavy with everything that hadn't been said. Jasmine hadn't moved from the window. Her phone was face down on the floor, buzzing every few minutes, but she couldn't look at it. Every notification was another reminder that the world was watching her fall apart again. She wiped her face with the sleeve of her robe, stood up, and stared at herself in the mirror. The woman looking back wasn't the one she used to be. She looked tired, softer somehow, stripped of the armor she'd built for years. Her assistant walked in quietly, holding a tablet. The brand numbers dropped another 15% overnight, she said carefully. People are canceling orders. Some of the retailers pulled the line completely. Jasmine didn't respond. And your lawyer called. Rasheeda's team filed another notice. It's not a lawsuit yet, but they're serious. Finally, Jasmine turned, her voice barely above a whisper. How bad is it? Bad, her assistant said honestly. But not impossible. If you apologize publicly. No, Jasmine interrupted. I'm not doing another apology tour. Every time I say sorry, someone new gets rich off my pain. The assistant hesitated. Then you need to reinvent fast. That word hung in the air. Jasmine nodded slowly, like the idea had already been forming somewhere deep inside her. Set up a meeting, she said finally. I want a fresh team. No more old managers. I want new blood, people who don't care about love and hip-hop. People who know how to rebuild from ashes. The assistant blinked. Who do you have in mind? Jasmine smiled faintly. Someone who knows exactly how it feels to be dragged and still come back shining. Call K. Michelle. The assistant froze. K. Michelle. Yeah, Jasmine said. She knows how to turn a headline into a movement. While Jasmine plodded quietly across town, the Frost house was finally starting to feel like a home again. The kitchen smelled like coffee and peace. Rasheeda sat at the counter, laptop open, drafting a new campaign proposal for Kirk was at the stove, trying not to burn breakfast. You cooking now? She asked, half smiling. Trying, he said. Figure I owe you at least a meal for every headline I caused. She chuckled softly. A rare sound lately. Then you better start a restaurant chain. For a moment, they almost felt normal. No cameras, no drama, no noise, just two people who'd survived too much to give up now. But peace in Atlanta never lasts. Kirk's phone buzzed on the counter, the screen lighting up with a name neither of them expected. Mona Scott Young. He glanced at Rasheeda. Should I? Yeah, she said. Answer it. He picked up. Mona, what's good? Her voice came through quick, energetic. What's good is opportunity, Kirk. You, Rasheeda, Jasmine, y'all just brought the franchise back to life without even filming. People are eating this storyline up. The network wants an official reunion special. 3 episodes. Cameras rolling next month. Rasheeda shook her head immediately. No, we're done with that chapter. Mona laughed on the other end. Might be done, but the world ain't. This is history, redemption, confrontation. Family people want closure. I'm offering full creative control. Y'all tell it your way. Kirk looked at Rasheeda, silently asking. She took a deep breath. We'll think about it. When the call ended, the quiet came back heavier. You thinking about it? Kirk asked. I'm thinking about everything, she said. We spent half our lives letting other people narrate our story. Maybe it's time we tell it ourselves. He nodded slowly. You sure you're ready for cameras again? I'm ready for peace, she said. If that means facing it on my terms, then yes. Across town, Jasmine was doing the same math. She sat in a recording studio with K. Michelle, who looked every bit the veteran, confident, sharp, no nonsense. So, K. Michelle said, leaning back in her chair, you called me 'cause you tired of being the villain. But baby, villains don't stop being villains. They just learn how to own it. I don't want to own it, Jasmine said. I want to outgrow it. Then stop chasing the same stage. K. Michelle said plainly. Atlanta's not gonna let you heal if you keep bleeding for views. You gotta give them something they can't twist, a truth that makes them uncomfortable. Like what? Jasmine asked. Like the part where you admit you still love Kirk. The words hit the air like a slap. Jasmine looked away. That's not part of this, she said. It's the only part people still believe. K. Michelle said softly. And until you face it, every story you tell gonna sound like revenge. For a long moment, Jasmine said nothing. Then she whispered, maybe I do still love him. But it's not the kind of love that saves you. It's the kind that ruins you. Then make that your story, K. Michelle said. You can't erase your past, so turn it into your art. Drop a documentary, a brand relaunch, something with your voice, not just your name. Jasmine nodded slowly. You'd help me, only if you promise to stop running from the woman you are, K. Michelle said. Deal, Jasmine said. By the end of that week, new headlines hit. Jasmine Washington and K. Michelle spotted filming secret project. Speculation went wild. Some said music, others said reality TV, some whispered about an upcoming tell-all. Whatever it was, it reignited the internet. Kirk saw the post first. Here we go again, he muttered. Rasheeda glanced at the screen. Let her film. If she wants to rebuild, let her. I'm not fighting ghosts anymore. You think she's really rebuilding? Kirk asked. I think she's learning, Rasheeda said. Same way I had too. Weeks passed. The noise started to fade. Jasmine kept her head down, working silently on her project. Rasheeda focused on her stores, hosting charity events, posting motivational clips. Kirk stayed out of the spotlight, finally learning the value of quiet, but nothing in their world stays quiet for long. One night, a blogger dropped a bombshell video titled The Frost Tapes, Unseen Footage. The thumbnail showed all three names: Rasheeda, Kirk, Jasmine. Nobody knew where it came from, but within an hour, it had 500,000 views. The footage was grainy, but clear enough. Kirk, years ago, sitting in a hotel room with Jasmine. He wasn't cheating, it looked like a serious conversation. He was crying. I can't fix what I broke, he said in the clip, and I don't deserve her forgiveness, but I wish I could give her peace before I ruin her completely. The internet froze. For once it wasn't scandal, it was sadness. The comment sections turned quiet. Even the blogs didn't know how to spin it. Rasheeda watched it alone in her room. When it ended, she sat back, staring at the dark screen. Later that night, Kirk came in quietly. You seen it? She nodded. Yeah. It was before I told you everything, he said. Before I came clean. I know, she said softly. You mad? No, she said. I just forgot you ever cried about it. He sat beside her. I never stopped caring, Sheeda. I just stopped knowing how to show it. For the first time in months, she leaned her head on his shoulder. We both did. Across town, Jasmine was watching the same video. She didn't cry. She just stared until her screen dimmed. So he did love her after all, she whispered. Her assistant walked in. You want to post a response? No, Jasmine said quietly. Some truths don't need an audience. By morning, the city felt different. The fans weren't mocking anymore. They were reflecting. Blogs wrote think pieces instead of gossip. The Frost saga was never about betrayal. It was about endurance. For once, all three names trended not for scandal, but for closure. A few weeks later, the reunion special was announced officially, Love and Hip Hop, Redemption. This time, it wasn't chaos. It was legacy. The promos were simple, no music, no shade. Just Rasheeda, Kirk and Jasmine, sitting apart but calm. The trailer opened with Rasheeda's voice. For years, people watched us fall apart. This time, we're showing how we got back up. Then Jasmine's voice. Softer. I learned that healing don't come from headlines, it comes from honesty. And finally Kirk's. Sometimes you gotta lose the world to find yourself again. When the special aired, the internet stopped everything to watch. For the first time in a decade, there were no interruptions, no screaming matches, no walk-offs, just truth. Three people who had lived through public fire, sitting together, finally choosing peace over performance. The ratings broke records. Comments flooded in. This is what growth looks like. They really came full circle. Atlanta finally healing. And when the cameras cut off that night, they didn't hug. They didn't cry, they just nodded at one another. An unspoken truce. After the show, Rasheeda and Kirk drove home in silence. The city lights flickered past the car windows like fading memories. You think it's really over this time? Kirk asked. It's never over, Rasheeda said. But at least we're not at war anymore. He smiled faintly. You think Jasmine meant what she said? I think she's finally tired, Rasheeda replied. And that's the first step to peace. Meanwhile, Jasmine stood on her balcony, watching the same city glow beneath her. She was alone again, but not lonely. For once, her phone was silent. No notifications, no live feeds, no chaos. Just the sound of Atlanta breathing. She whispered to herself, maybe this is what forgiveness feels like. And somewhere out there, fans who had followed every twist of their story finally stopped refreshing for the next scandal. Because this time, there wasn't one. There was just a quiet kind of ending, the kind that only comes after years of storms. But deep down, everyone knew if Atlanta ever starts humming again, If one old secret ever slips through the cracks, the Frost name will rise once more. Because in this city, peace is temporary, but legends are forever. If you thought that was the end, you already know Atlanta never lets a story fade quietly. The dust might have settled for now, but every person involved walked away holding something: secrets, scars, and unfinished business. Because no matter how many interviews they give or how many posts they delete, the Frost story always finds its way back into the light. Rasheeda proved once again that silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. She waited, she calculated, and when the time came, she let the truth reveal itself. That calm smile, that one clip, that simple line, silence speaks loudest when the truth echoes. It wasn't just a post. It was a message to every woman who's ever been pushed, blamed, or doubted. She didn't scream. She didn't beg for sympathy. She reclaimed her own narrative with grace sharper than any headline. Fans called her the queen of composure, the blueprint of play smart, not loud. Kirk, on the other hand, walked away quieter than usual. Maybe for the first time, he saw what it meant to lose control of the story. He'd gone live, he'd spoken out, but all his words turned into noise once Jasmine dropped her receipts. In the end, his truth wasn't the one that trended. And when the world flipped again, he realized something that no amount of fame or pride could hide: that sometimes, the loudest damage comes from saying too much when silence could have saved everything. And Jasmine, well, she's the kind of storm you can't predict. No matter how many times she's exposed, no matter how many receipts turn against her, she always finds a way to stay in the frame. That's what makes her dangerous. She doesn't need forgiveness. She needs an audience. And the audience, no matter how much they claim to hate her, keeps coming back. Maybe that's her real talent: turning chaos into relevance, turning mistakes into marketing. And with that new email about a love and hip-hop redemption pitch sitting in her inbox, it's clear she's not backing down. Not now, not ever. The fans are split down the middle. Half of Atlanta is riding with Rasheeda, calling her the queen of quiet revenge. The other half is saying Jasmine's just doing what everyone else is too afraid to, turning pain into power. Social media is still arguing, podcasts are still dissecting every clip, and gossip blogs are already teasing the next chapter. The question is, who's really winning? Is it the woman who held her silence until the world begged her to speak? Or the one who used her voice to build an empire from scandal? And let's be real, you can't talk about love and hip-hop Atlanta without talking about power. Because this wasn't just about jealousy, or money, or pride. It was about who gets to write the final chapter when the truth has three sides. Rasheeda, Kirk, Jasmine, they each believe they're the victim, the hero, the one with the most to lose. But the truth? Maybe all three are trapped in the same cycle where love is business, betrayal is currency, and forgiveness is just another headline waiting to drop. Fans are already speculating. Will Jasmine apologize publicly now that her fake footage got exposed? Or will she double down, post another truth video, and drag the Frosts one more time? And what about Kirk and Rasheeda's marriage? Are they really healing? Or are they just holding it together for the cameras and the brand? Because you know how it goes in Atlanta, every smile hides a story, and every silence has a price. But here's the part that no one's talking about yet: the rumor that another cast member might step in next. Someone close to Jasmine, ready to spill everything about what really happened behind the scenes. Leaked texts, hidden meetings, late-night calls. If that comes out, this saga won't just shake Atlanta. It'll set fire to the whole franchise. So if you've been following from the start, you know we've seen love, lies, loyalty, and betrayal, but something about this one feels different. Because this wasn't just about who cheated, who lied, or who cried first. This was about legacy. Rasheeda and Kirk built their empire on perseverance, on surviving every scandal thrown at them. Jasmine tried to build hers on the ashes of that empire, and for a moment, she almost succeeded. But almost doesn't last forever, not in this city. So what happens next? Does Rasheeda forgive again, or does she finally walk away for good? Does Kirk rebuild what's left of his pride, or does he get pulled back into another headline? And Jasmine, will she finally find peace, or will she turn the next rumor into her next business pitch? Atlanta is about to decide, and the fans are the jury. And now, I want to hear from you. After everything you've seen and heard, who do you believe came out on top? Was it Rasheeda, the quiet mastermind who let karma handle her business? Was it Jasmine, the comeback queen who refuses to stay cancelled? Or was it Kirk, the man caught between his past mistakes and his present regrets? Drop your thoughts below. Because this story isn't just theirs anymore, it's ours to discuss, dissect, and debate. Make sure you like this video if you've been keeping up with the Frost saga since day one. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next chapter. Because you already know this drama's not done. Atlanta doesn't rest, and neither do the secrets. And if you're watching this right now, take a second to think about it. How far would you go for redemption? Would you forgive the one who broke you, or outsmart the one who underestimated you? Because at the end of the day, love in this city doesn't fade, it fights back. This is more than a scandal. It's a cycle, a lesson, a mirror. And somewhere between the headlines and the heartbreak, between the live streams and the lies, between the silence and the screaming sounds, truth is still waiting to be told. So stay tuned, because the cameras are still rolling, the shade is still brewing, and the next twist, it's already being written. Atlanta's got its eyes open, and the Frost family's story is far from over. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, because if you thought this chapter was wild, the next one will make the city stop breathing all over again.